Hello, sir. You're welcome to Technology Times T.
Thank you.
For the benefit of our audience, please introduce yourself.
My name is Edi Lawani, and I function in the show business and communication space.
You've been a key figure in the entertainment industry for decades. How have you seen the landscape evolve, especially with the impact of technology?
Well, having been in the business for about 40 years counting, it's been a long way coming from the days of absolute total manual operations and the way things were done to the era of machines coming into assist, ICT, the internet. The landscape has evolved a lot, and that has changed how we used to do things.
Can you share a moment in your career where technology significantly impacted a project you worked on?
Oh, those days when you had to take for example, events that you had to stage or concerts, you have to paint like large scale murals as a backdrop, maybe sometimes stretching over 70 yards of continuous fabric and large format painting, graffiti, just to create a backdrop for about 30 seconds clip. These days, you have LED screen. That was a major game changer. We started from the era when lights were manual, what you call ellipsoidals, that you have in the theater. You could only change colors when you put gels in front of them. Gels are plastic colored films. So if you needed red, it had to be red from the beginning of the show to the end. Then movie heads came and intelligent lighting came, and then one light can function as a spot, as profile, as beam, everything just like when haywire. So it allowed for more dynamism, it allowed for more adaptation, and in terms of expressions, we were able to now do backdrops that were dynamic, mobile, and have changed the sequences. So in so many aspects where events are concerned, technology and improvements in ICT has been a game changer. Some people say lifesaver.
From your perspective, can you share the way technology has shaped how entertainment is consumed, distributed in Nigeria?
ICT has rewritten the entire room. Those days, if somebody made a record, you have to buy a cassette tape. And then we thought we had made a quantum leap where you could now buy CDs, compact discs. And then all of a sudden, we're having USB that can carry information, SD cards, and then now everything, MP3, MP4. The device of which you listen or to music or watch visuals also has changed. Largely, you could only watch visuals on your home TV. Then we thought it was the Eldorado where you could watch on your desktop computer or then laptop scale. Now you have mobile devices. Now you even have mobile devices that you can watch videos on surfaces as small as the face of a watch. So that's been major transformation in that aspect.
Streaming platforms have disrupted traditional media. So, what are your thoughts on the dominance of these platforms over radio and TV?
Well, again, streaming platform, yes, or streaming in general. Like I said, you don't have to buy CDs now, so you just go to Apple, Spotify, whatever the digital platform is, and then stream. The disruption is interesting because what it also means is that music and entertainment have become kind of ubiquitous. You put something up, I'm in Malaysia, I don't need to know where you come from, where you are. The internet is an open-ended space. Everything gets to everybody. If anything, we now have an era of information overload, and then people have to struggle with attention, hyperactivity, disorder, or attention span is getting smaller because you just have too much. So people have not become more selective in what they look for, that answers to their interest, and the algorithms are doing their own magic and their own abracadabra and all of that. However, this is still essentially limited to a very small population, a very little percentage of the population that need to have access to entertainment or to media. And I say so because you have to have a smartphone to function in this space. And only very few compared to the number of people who have in the world, maybe less than 10% have access to smartphones. And it's even worse off in Africa. And I think Nigeria is like really backward, whereby internet connectivity and penetration is still very marginal. So somebody in my village is kind of excluded from this new experience where we consume entertainment via digital platforms and streaming. So that is something.
The music industry in particular has benefited from these digital tools. So how do you think these artists have been impacted, how their earnings have been impacted in terms of NFTs and other technology?
Well, the creatives, again, I was artists, I was meaning whether you're in music or comedy or you're a TikToker doing any kind of content. The artists are being blessed that they are happening in the generation. I mean, when you have to do CDs, what would have been the fate of a TikToker or of a YouTuber, for example? The opportunity just wasn't there. So as opportunities come up, it comes with benefits, even though there might be some slight disadvantages. It has been largely beneficial to everybody that has been involved in that space. Because again, like I said, the latitude for expression has greatly improved, and your audience is boundless. If you're talking to a global audience, it's just a matter of how you find an audience or how your audience finds it. People are found by accident. Things happen overnight. So people are earning money. People can argue about whether they have been adequately paid. Again, you sign up to the small print before you get into any platform. You have to click I agree. If you don't agree, you don't get in. So you get in, it's what you get is what you get. But it's still a whole lot better than being confined to all people can see in your street or in your village or in your hometown or in your city or places where you can be seen physically. So once again, this is virtual space, the virtual of the internet and the transporter medium that makes things boundless. It is a plus because without that energy, without that extra, you'll be where you are.
Speaking on how artists find an audience, social media is also a great way for them to do that. So how do you think it has changed the artist-fan relationship and promotional strategies?
Artists finding their audiences, people claim to be social media experts. There, some people have come to understand how this functions. Algorithm is the word everybody throws around. And there are those who understand. People will tell you what time is best to make a post of a certain kind. Which audience are you targeting? Are they Gen Zs? Are they Generation A? Baby boomers? You can't do a strategy that answers to everybody. So you find out people are creating strategies that answer to different segments of the demographic that they want to engage with. Again, the bigger an artist gets, the lesser intimacy they can possibly have with their audiences. People will send DMs that you can reply to, some can take offense, but again, the majority understand that they are coming onto your altar to worship. You are the star, you are the demigod, so they take it as it comes. And some artists go out of their way to have live sessions, have moments where they can create time to interact with their fans. But even then again, they'll be interacting with their fans who are on that medium or on that platform. Those who have data to stay for as long as they want to do what they want to do. Those who can catch up later, who are you following? Then there are the amplifier platforms like all the blogs and people that run or transmit secondary content. I mean, you have the two-leaders of this world who are doing a great job warehousing content that you otherwise spending hours looking for that you might not find. Things that are interesting, they bring it to one pocket. So those who are doing the strategy for the artists understand this or should understand this. That in terms of artist-fan relationship, well, you get a lot of fans, but in terms of personal attention, with some fans back in the day, understand or relate to, there's a whole lot less of that. But again, we must also not dwell too much on how things used to be, because the dominant demographic on social media today will probably be around 55% of Gen Zs. And they don't know this old world where people go to sign autographs and sit down. So they're not missing anything. So people that long for that kind of experience are probably in the wrong generation. Again, you also have older artists who are not so functional on social media spaces. So they have a way of generating their own meet and greet or their own interaction. So a Sunny Ade might not be on social media, but he's got his core fans and they know where to be. So audiences find their stars when they know they will be, and artists and stars who might be disadvantaged on social media or for strategic reasons choose not to play in there because their audience is not there. They know when they meet, which is why live concerts and exclusive shows are still going on. You go to Las Vegas, we have the residencies, whereas others are watching online and others are watching live. So you just have to find a rhythm.
Looking at concept production and event management, how has technology improved the efficiency and audience experience?
Well, in terms of concerts, for example, like I said, technology has made it so easy that you are able to infuse materials that would have otherwise been impossible and bring it into an experience. You have a raging ocean on stage. You have all kinds of special effects that you can combine to give people a cinematic experience that otherwise wasn't possible or would have been possible without technology coming to aid. Audiences have also come to expect maybe a little bit more than what you call the average. Because if the technological possibilities are there, they don't see why you can't drive into the extreme. You go to laser shows, they are infusing holograms, holographic projections into laser projections, into big format backdrop screens, lighting, and all of this being put together. So the expectation of the audience keeps increasing, because why go for little when you can get more? But that will put a challenge on artists who are not as big yet to afford that kind of big budget for that kind of production. They are less struggling. But again, if you are creative, you can manipulate your own agenda and get people to bear your pay. I've seen artists go to gardens to do shows. You just redefine it in such a way that you manage people's expectations, and what they align with you and they're keen with you, it's a win-win for everybody.
AI is now being used in content creation from...
Yeah, sorry. I forgot to add something also, because I only spoke to live experience. In the process of planning, there are apps, there are softwares now that those days, if you need to do a show in the stadium, or you have to try to get to maybe read to count, which I've done many times, to physically measure every corner, every step of the sitting span, the grandstand, how many inches. They'll be shocked that some places there's a misalignment in a few cases. You have to be sure, audit it, then bring it back, get a draftsman, get an architect, get a civil engineer to do all the calculations. How many people can be on the stage at the 60 meter by 30 meter? You have to calculate what they call PPI, pressure per PPSI, pressure per square inch. Now you have technology that can help you with all of that. Technology has helped us now. We have retractable bleacher settings. You go into a stadium or into, let's say, a big dome, and if you want only 200 or 2,000 seats, press a button, 2,000 seats roll out, they're already scaled. All of that is made planning easy, and it saves you time when you get on the road. You don't have to carry bulky equipment also anymore. You can always know what you need. You have simulation. Now you can see your stage and set when you do 3D renderings, designs, and rendering, because you can see what you will get or what you're working towards. You don't wait to get there and realize that something is out of alignment. So it become technology has given us tools to help us plan. Then AI coming into the equation is just getting mad. Unfortunately, AI will not solve your problem, but you need to know. AI only responds to what you're telling them. So if you're poor with English language, or those that have developed it, their machine learning skills, their machine learning skills, or competence has not reached a particular level, you might even be speaking higher level of grammar that the AI bot understands. So those are drawbacks that we have seen in trying to apply AI in entertainment project, either planning or execution. And AI can only just reference crawling the net and much encoding by what machine learning that you're putting. It can't go beyond the scope. It's not as imaginative as a human being would be. So you're going to ask a question or a prompt, and then it looks for what is it that has been done along those lines and tries to like mix and match. Again, it will just act as a reference, maybe to simplify things for you or to get you references faster. You still need to do your analysis and rework it and adapt it for what you need. AI possibly can talk about what it cannot reference, futuristic things, because there's just no reference for it to deal with that, except maybe the next step was it.
Do you think the regulatory environment in Nigeria is keeping up with the pace of digital entertainment, and what improvements are needed?
Most people actually tend to believe, because they enjoy social media and the boundless freedom that they give, most people actually frown at regulation in terms of cyberspace, if that's the question, right? Most people actually frown, most people actually want less regulation. But we've also seen that less regulation is very dangerous. Even countries that are very well regulated, there are downsides of things. People live in the virtual space, people are marrying virtually, people are marrying, humans are marrying animals, and all kinds of things, because this is the world that the digital environment is creating in our minds. People are now existing more in their minds than in their realities. But that's the downside of the virtual world. It's exciting sometimes, but the downside is that there are core values, again, which you might call traditionalist point of view. There are core values that development in ICT and interaction in cyberspace are challenging, because everybody can dump anything in there. People can say things that are counterculture in there. People can say things that are not judged to be morally sensible. So there's no limit. So regulations are welcome as much as people fight against it. But again, the regulators also have to know it has to be based on research, empirical data, and evidence. What is harmful, what is not. Again, we're all jubilating free speech. Everybody has become a journalist, a blogger, a podcaster, and whatever. But now we're also now dealing with the issue of fake news. And with AI coming in, the deepfakes are getting deeper. So only regulation can draw the line. The people always tie regulation to like government wanting to control. I think it's an ethical question. We are human beings, and there should be limits to certain things. And there has to be a body that does that. Happens to be a body that government has to mandate to do that. But because people don't like anything about government, they don't want to see regulation. The regulation is mandatory. There has to be more regulation as we get better with ICT. And like I said, AI is a game changer. I can be here and somebody puts me and my video and my voice in a crime scene in New York. How do you get out of that? So there has to be a limit, both from ethical an ethical point of view, moral, and even the social contract that society is supposed to have with itself.
Finally, what advice would you give to young professionals and young people in the entertainment industry looking to leverage technology for success?
Well, unfortunately, the entertainment industry is so permissive now that you really don't even need to have talent for anything to succeed in the entertainment industry. You know how to find a way to, which is why people are not talking about talent. They just we're content creators, we are creatives, we have the tools. You may have the worst voice on the earth and win the Grammy. You can be the ugliest person and turn out to be the best model on TikTok. You have filters and stuff and stuff. So again, ultimately, I don't want to be a prophet of doom, but we've seen technology starts and end. It's in phases, except when the world starts to develop. So who knows? We might get to a point where everybody gets tired of all of this and there will be a rollback. You know, we want a bit more manual. Everything is just too automated. Again, the generation who think that the Gen Zs are a handful. Wait for what is coming after them. So anybody that wants to be in this space, there are good things to take out of what technology offers to empower your craft, to help move your game forward. But you must also know your limits, and you must also know where you need to get knowledge and how to maneuver things. And then when you need help, there are also tons and tons of experts and consultants who are willing to run that. But everybody will be driven by their own ambition and how much energy they think they want to put into it. And again, the moral code will always come in. How far do I want to really succeed? What is success at the end? We've seen young people succeed so much that the next thing they are suicidal. So you begin to say, what is success? What do you need to achieve success? What are the drivers? How much are you willing to commit to it? And when you find success, will you recognize it? And when do you get satisfied?
As someone deeply involved in the industry, what emerging technologies do you see shaping the industry over the next decade?
AI will be major, but I think we'll get to a point where, for regulation's sake and also for ethical standards, we'll get to a point where they want to become, when the world will wake up to, let's pay attention to a bit more ethics than endless advancement. That's when we probably have to roll back. We are still at the infant stages of using biometric dimensions in a lot of things that we do. I see a bit more of that coming, but only to the extent of trying to be able to hold people accountable, whereby content that you put out, things that you say you carry your biometric DNA, like a zip code, and then this boundless, free for all, anything goes, can be checked. So you put fake news out, it can almost be traced to you by a retina. Maybe cameras will not let you record if it hasn't recorded your biometrics, and your biometrics will feed into a database somewhere. Again, this would be to just make you accountable. As much as that can also be used for that.
What's next for Kukuru INC and Kata City? Any projects?
This is totally out of this conversation. We're evolving more now into taking the backseat and doing more consulting and more teaching, trying to pass knowledge, creating an environment for people to interact, knowledge acquisition, encourage technology transfer, and also maybe build next generation of real professionals. Again, safety has a long way to go, but it's essentially just dedicated to safety education advocacy, and nobody needs to tell anybody. They're just safety issues everywhere. And the only way, rather than government jumping into it, for we are even incapable of doing it, they don't have the resources, and the scope is just too wide. So the idea is the more you educate people, the more they become aware. The more they are aware, the more they might like to want to be careful, and the more they can self-regulate, then
Thank you very much, sir, for joining us at Technology Times.
Thank you.
Is there anything we left out during the course of this discussion that you left out?
I don't know what you had in mind to ask, but I think we pretty much covered, except that I wanted to speak to homegrown technology. I mean, if you want to talk about technology and culture.
This way.
Okay, so on the flip side, I have a challenge I would like to encourage people involved with ICT in the developing world. So instead of just waiting to consume, we have to be up and doing and begin to see how do we also protect, because we're gradually evolving into a one world global cultural space, which on its own is not a bad idea. But in the global world where one culture dies for the other to survive, that's a problem. We can't afford to be a monocultural world. But right now, the more technology drives us to what we call advancement, it will also be driving certain cultures to the brink. I want to give a masterclass in South Africa where I talked about stories without audience. The way we are going, history is being recorded on a daily basis by what we put on TikTok, by what we put on Instagram, by what you can find on Google. That has become a repository of history. So if somebody is doing something rewarding, something great for the culture in Odogolu, but it's not on social media, in 10 years there will be nothing to remember that. There will be nothing to remind us of that. So our own homegrown technology, our own homegrown ICT experts must start looking at what are those things that the global system is not interested in about us, and we have to try and create platforms, call it apps, call it whatever, to document and help in fostering the preservation of our cultural legacy. If not, at the rate we are going, Gen Z no more about Japan, Gen Z in Nigeria no more about Japan than they know about the village where they're from. And that is because they can't find information about their village on the internet. And if you don't, you can't blame them. So we need to be conscious about that. So when government talks regulation, they don't talk about encouraging people to kind of balance the situation so that we're not just lost in a global space. I wanted to become global citizens and using our locality just for the sake of technology. I'm all for global space interaction, but in a global space where I can only ultimately speak your language and I can speak mine, I have a problem with that. A global language that can pour their culture down on me and they can receive mine, I have a problem with that. But nobody will do it for us, we have to do it for ourselves, and technology is here to help us. We want to see AI bots that speak Yoruba that automatically can also speak dialects. If not, again, it will always just remain, the media language will just remain for a little niche of just a little clique of people and then become a niche thing. So the old man in the village who is the custodian of history in his village, you want to interview him in English, right? It's impossible. How do we get technology to solve it or save some of these things that we are at the risk of losing? Technology and culture. We need to bring it up.
Thank you very much, Dr. joining us at Technology Times. What do you have to say about Technology Times?
Technology Time has been a pioneer in this space when it didn't look like it was creating, like it was interesting. And again, that's what pioneers do. You stick in there and lead the way for others to follow. And then that challenges you to be the best of the pack and stay on top of your game. And that's what Technology Times is doing, from print, enlarging the landscape and making it more accessible. Again, people have attention deficiency, which you can't blame them because they're dealing with information overload. So it's a sharp thing that Technology Times is evolving into spaces where you can make yourself or make each offering more readily available to a wider demographic beyond just being on cold print. So kudos.